Greetings, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome to 2024.
I'm sorry, I'm watching my sister's poetry thing.
I'm muting everybody. Welcome to the 2024 Spring Rights Literary Festival. This is the third to last Zoom event. We've got, the third to last Zoom event. Tomorrow, which is Saturday at 2 o'clock, there's stories by students in Cornell's Milstein program in technology and humanity. Read the description of that. That sounds really cool. I'll put springrights.org website into the chat. And then at 6 o'clock tomorrow, there's a bilingual two-voice reading, which is going to be really cool. Collective Monstrosities in the Poetry of Emilia Ayarza de Herrera. So those are tomorrow. And then from June to August, there's 8 additional workshops, most of them live. And Lee, who's in the room tonight, is running one of them. And did I mention who I was? I got distracted by putting everyone on mute. I'm Robin Schwartz, the Community Arts Partnerships Program and Grant Director. We are in Ithaca, New York, and our organization serves Tompkins County, along with the Spring Rights Literary Festival. We have the Greater Ithaca Art Trail. We do an artist market on August 9th, and artists who are not only visual artists, but writers and performers, or really anything with anything to sell, can be part of that. And I'll put the link to our website, which has information about applying. We also have a vintage art sale. And this year alone, we distributed $575,000 of state, county, and foundation money for hundreds of local events and artists. And since 1993, that number has been 6.5 million. So that is how awesome we are. Who's gotten a grant? Mary's gotten a grant, right? Yeah, Lee's gotten a grant. Mark, you got a grant too? Before we jump into tonight's event, I'm going to keep everybody on mute. And then at the end, we're going to do some Q&A after our 5 writers read. And so anytime during this event, if you have any questions, just put them right into the chat. Your bathrooms are down the hall, and we are recording this session. Lastly, I'm going to thank our wonderful Spring Rights sponsors. Because of our sponsors, we are able to offer 40 free events and pay over 110 participating writers. So yay to the sponsors. They are Ithaca College, Wegmans, M&T Bank, CFCU Community Credit Union, the Odyssey Bookstore in Ithaca, and the Ithaca Marriott. We receive grant support from Poets and Writers and the Tompkins County Tourism Program. And our media sponsors are the Root, WITH Radio, WSKG Radio, and Cinemapolis. And so we begin. Our first writer tonight is Lee Cotman. And Lee's goal is to foster connections between working class people through play. They wear many hats: medievalist, poet, parent, circus clown, all of which demand a knack for storytelling. Their writing has been published in Stone Canoe, Myth and Lore Zine, Lumpen Journal, and elsewhere, and has placed in multiple contexts. And I will put all of the writers' web links or URLs into the chat. So here is Lee.
Hi, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Robin, for the introduction. So I am going to be reading some poetry from my forthcoming chapbook, which is called How to Touch a God. And as Robin mentioned, it was the recipient this year of a strategic opportunity stipend grant where I was able to send it out for professional critique, which I've already done, and it's been fantastic. So this collection is about trying to find human connection through divinity, and then realizing that it actually works the other way around. Inextricable from that theme is the fact that I am a colonizer on this land. So before reading, I just want to express my solidarity with and gratitude toward Indigenous people everywhere, which is to say free Palestine and protect Mauna Kea. So the first poem I'm going to read is the title poem. This is called How to Touch a God. You were born brooding over the silliest questions like how to touch a god such that the others let it back in the nest. You would not rest. 3 decades yielded 2 paltry answers. Scrub the blood out from under your fingernails and mind its terrible mother. This is If Only for a Moment. Imagine you're immortal. No, not like that. I mean, time is abundant. What would you... Don't cry. I'm sorry. There's plenty of time. I was only thinking. I just wondered if we'd have an easier time talking, if not for the clock. I understand. Have a good meeting. I'll see you after. This is Goddess Watching Part 2. Winter dark finds me restless crocheting while Berchta, Bavarian goddess of getting shit done on time, glowers at me from the shadows. The solstice looms. Her eyes track my fingers, uncalloused, unsure, tangled in vulgar acrylic. I protest. I'm not skilled enough for linen. Daggers. It's too expensive these days. She is silent. This pattern's shit anyway. I frog it. Next morning, there's a starling on my windshield. Its belly split wide. This is I Explain a Moon Garden. Take this trivia, I insist. It'll warm you better than a bowl of soup. Or the kisses I had planned to serve you by sundown, growing colder by the minute. You must be starving. Come, you will never unsee how white petals echo the moon's love back to her. I've been watching, trying to learn. This is called Imbolc, which is spelled I-M-B-O-L-C. It's a Celtic word. In the blink between my words and yours, I squandered a century alone, till the blossom scent of your laughter led me back here, as it always has. Silly me. This one is called A Formality. Sign, please, in red, if you're hell-bent on staying. Attest you understand that our hands will always be cold, that we cannot intrude without your explicit permission. Yes, every time. That we keep odd hours and to the shadows given the choice, and will not follow if you chase the light. Just wish you well. That we have lived so many lives, we often forget which is presently called for. That the means of our destruction are so common as to be comically unavoidable, and that we haven't yet mastered how not to hurt you when we need you so desperately. But we are trying. And this is the final one from the chat book. This last one is called I Saw Venus at Dawn, and she had nothing to tell me but, good morning. I'm here. Bit warm today. Thanks for asking. You seem surprised. Had you forgotten clouds could sparkle? Light reflected is not multiplied. No, light reflected is not multiplied. True. But it is enough. Sun's coming. Other worlds exist. Your tits look great. I'll be here all day. Holler if you need anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next is Yangzhou Bian is a theater practitioner from Sichuan, China. She is a PhD student in translation studies at Binghamton University with a research focus on intersemiotic translation, adaptation, transcreation, and playwriting. She received her MA and MA in theater studies at SUNY Binghamton, specializing in theory and criticism and Chinese folk dances. Bian is published widely in recipe books, plays, novellas, and poetry, including Rainbow Dumplings, which is a bilingual dumpling recipe book in English and China with step-by-step photo illustrations of 16 mouthwatering recipes. Bookworm and Butterfly, An Usher's Diary, My Green Card Marriage, and more. I will put the two links. There's a Barnes & Noble link for the Rainbow Dumplings book and an Amazon link for the others. And I just wanted to mention that if you go to the homepage of our website, which I put in the chat, artspartner.org, you'll see a link to our YouTube channel where I've put the Spring Rights events that have been taped. And there was an event called Polychromatic Voices, which you should watch. It was a couple days ago, and Yangzhou brought together 5 women in bilingual, not bilingual, but different language. I think you're all reading the same text. Is that true? In different languages? It was really extraordinary. So check that out. And now, here you are.
Hello, everybody. I am Yangzhou Bian, and people usually call me Yao. I'm going to read you a short thing from a longer play, and the thing is called Bananaland. I'm putting the text in the chat. If you want to check and follow along, you can do that. I'm going to start to read it from the dialogue, so we will skip the thing. Muang is the name of monkey 1 and Muru is name of the monkey 2. They are the actors, or they can be perceived as monkey mimes. This play is set in either the past of the proto-human society, that is of the hominids, or in the future of the techno era of genetically mutated monkeys. You can choose to believe whichever they are, and I hope you enjoy the reading. Muru screams, "Murder! Murder!" Muang, "Boundaries, that's what it means. Next time, make sure there is no next time." Muru coming back up. "No, what? You could not reconvene and get away with it without substantiation." Muang, "If you must have it, which I think you do, in plain words, do not sit too close. Now you have been informed. There is no ground for committing the same offenses. Stay over there. Then we shall call it square." Muru, "Call it square? That's not even a rectangle. You are drawing a trapezoid, bluntly knocking off the tip of the triangle and screwing the base to suit your ass." Muang, "Mind your language, or the zookeeper might come and teach you the proper nomenclature by making an example of your own anatomy." Muru, "Remember, the monkey does not exist with the presence of the other monkey. With me being done with, what will be the coming of you? Taxidermy. An abstraction without a reference. A singularity devoid of juxtaposition. Oh God, I hate language. You could never find the right word for the meaning that is not there in the first place. You might count on your toes on your transportation to the museum with the coats of furs and cross of plumage. The only way to hang around is to be made into an exhibition. And by doing so, you cease to survive as even a monkey. You bet I would not tell, huh? I bet the zookeeper would not listen. A bit. Mwah. That's fair. Pray do not come nearer. Muru, that's not fair. The position is relative. The same could be said about you. I am no nearer to you than you are to me. Muang, I do not smell. You do. Muru, You are not used to how I smell, and you do not smell how you smell. That's all. Muang. What the hell? Muru. What is hell? Muang. Your smell. You smell like hell. Muru. But it could not be hell and be like hell at the same time. If hell is like hell, the hell is not hell, or this hell is not that hell. In that sense, you are either contradicting the point you attempt to make or talking nonsense by omitting the necessary details, which means it could not mean or does not mean a thing. If hell is not hell, what is hell? If this hell is not that hell, why hell? Muang. I don't know. Pin yourself where you are. No more closer. Or these whites and warts. I think it is more of a weird question. I'd have taken you to hell if there is a way to go. Oh, hell. That's what the rule keeper talks about all the time. Muru. I will give you that one. That's where the rule keeper is at all the time. Muang. I suppose so. When you look into those eyes behind the glasses, you see neither reflections nor monkeys. Rather, a search for somewhere that is absent, a nowhere to place the gaze. He's neither here nor there. The rule keeper, his way to be is he could not be. Muru. Then hell must be somewhere unreachable. Muang. It must be very unpleasant, stretching over all four to get a banana that has not yet grown or has already been taken. Muru holding out its arms. Certainly not me. Muang. You spoil the bananas. Muru starts to cry. That's very rude. Muang offers Muru a banana. My apology. Muru accepts and peels. Muru takes deep breaths to resist its heartbeats and recede its heartbeats and opens its mouth. Muang knocks the banana from Muru's paw and the banana smashes on the floor. Muru looks staggered at Muang and then bursts into tears. Muang holding its paws to the side, palms up. You ask for it. I'm just trying to provide an answer, an explanation in lived experience. How do you smell? Like hell. What is hell? Which is like a banana being spoiled. Muru wiping its face sobbingly. I get it. You've made it clear. Thanks for the information. Muang shrugs. Of course, anytime. Muru, I owe you one. Muang, forget about it. Muru hands Muang the last banana. Muang tilts the head at the empty stalk. Are you sure? Muru nodding. Go ahead. Muru watches Muang gulping down the banana. Muang, no wonder why humans eat the tongue, thinking stirs the appetite. Muru hugs Muang and Muang throws up. Muru pats Muang on the back. Friends ought to keep each other in shape. Muang weeping, but that's our last banana. Muru, trust me, the best banana is the last banana. A man's voice. Friends and families, entrepreneurs and millionaires, wherever you come from, wherever you got a jet lag or flat tire on your way. The rule keeper in a formal suit, shoes and tie walks onto the stage, cast in spotlight. The rule keeper, welcome to the auction at Bananaland, and almost sleeps. Who is throwing the banana peel all over the place? Ha, well, of course, look. Pointing to the direction not seeing the monkeys. To the beautiful banana trees, the cough signal Muang and Muru. Elegant fonts, the cough. Lovely flower spike, then cough, cough, cough. Magnificent cluster of aromatic bearings. Some of the words of praise, and enlighten it with the sparkle of imagination. Applause from the auditorium, a pronounced breather, but catching sight of the monkeys, I must say, unless you are a botanist or you are hungry for a bite, without the majestic dwellers, there isn't much to look at. Directing the attention to the monkeys, the talking to primates who philosophize. Surely I'm not referring to gesturing the audience and then himself, us. After generations of physical deterioration, we're not much worse. Not even mention the mental retrogression. Now raise your hands and call your bids. We go in the order of the length and strength of the forearms. so as to make sure you'd be able to handle these daredevils, I mean these energetic critters. He steps on Muru's bill. What the hell? Another one? Stumbles. Oh, narrow escape. The rule keeper steps aside, yet his foot lands on Muru's spur up. Losing balance, the rule keeper falls on his bottom. Muang whistles. The rule keeper tries to propel himself up, but the hand somehow fumbles its way to Muru's mashed banana, and at this time, the sound of bone fracture is heard. Gasp from the auditorium. Muang claps. Muru, the lost banana is the best banana. The rule keeper to hell with. Muru, curtain! The curtain slaps across and blocks the audience from the rule keeper's uncursed curses. The end. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was great. Did you say you were, oh, you did. Okay. You put something in the chat there. Next is going to be Mary Brett Lorson. Mary is a writer, teacher, musician, and composer. Best known for her time as the lead singer of alternative pop groups Madder Rose and St. Lo, Lorson has gone on to release albums, and her songs have been featured in TV and films. And Mary, you can, I got that from your Wikipedia page, so you can tell us what you've been doing since then. And shall I put your blog link into the chat?
Sure, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I will do that. Here is Mary.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the readers. Boy, I've loved what I've heard so far. Okay, so I'm going to read you some villanelles, and you probably know what they are, but I'm going to read you I thought I would put in the chat or share my screen. There's a definition of what a villanelle is. So I went through a period of being really prolific, and then I went through a period of not being prolific at all. And the way that I kind of got back into being creative was writing these villanelles, because they're sort of like a bite-sized thing. I think they take me about a minute and a half each, so I'll read about 5 of them. Where did I put the thing that has I have the definition of a villanelle somewhere here. Oh, I know where it is. Yeah, sorry. I thought I would just put it in the chat and then you can see what it is. There we are. Copy it and I'll put it in the chat. So it has a structure, and the structure has this built-in repetition to it. So it's a little like a word game. And I'll read it to you, then you'll know what I'm doing. Okay, so it's a 19-line poem with 2 rhymes throughout, consisting of 5 tercets, 3-line stanzas, and a quatrain, a 4-line stanza at the end. And the first and third lines of the opening tercet recur alternately at the ends of the other tercets, and they both appear at the close of the final quatrain. So when you write your first tercet, you're really trying to think about like, what do I want to hear repeated again? So anyway, I'll read 5 of these. This one is called Villanelle for Eclipses. Earthquake in Jersey, eclipse on the morrow, romance novel with Barbara, who's seeing a doctor, special surgery at 9 to see if there's a lifeline for her spine. It keeps on leaning and she can't walk upright. But she still goes to work every night after morning, does time at the meeting and drives to the laundry. Earthquake in Jersey, eclipse on the morrow, romance novel with Barbara. The sunshine today was a miracle. Pain is all gone but the headache. The what and the when and the how drone of wondering and incomplete silence. We hope there's a lifeline. It keeps on leaning. She can't walk upright. It was more of a hush here, like nearly dusk and quiet as ever. I sat in the back, expecting a spell, and received it, unenlightened. Earthquake in morning, eclipse at this minute. Later with Barbara, a romance. She loved her husband, and life is hard since he died. Grown daughter and son, they seem to get along nicely. I hope that they help her, since she can't walk upright. Ears are singing because there is no silence. In historical bodice rippers, there's love and there's violence. Earthquake in Jersey, eclipse on the morrow, romance novel with Barbara. There might be a lifeline for her spine. Keeps on leaning and she can't walk upright. This one is a villanelle for, I didn't give it a title. You'll hear it. Okay. This Saturday, I'm heading to the Death Cafe because I think about the exit. Too much, not enough. So let's say it out loud and hear what these people have to say. Leaving in a few minutes on my way, there's the phone, and it's my recently widowed brother-in-law. And I'll mention that I'm heading to the Death Cafe. He has discovered the books of a shrink, a specialist in past life regression. I did not ask, but he was careful to say, this is no snake oil salesman. So let's say it out loud and hear what these people have to say. He does not ask what I'm doing. Should I tell him? An old friend consulted the Ouija for a year after her husband died. This Saturday, I'm heading to the Death Cafe. End of a not good movie, but it has stayed. DiCaprio on a hill in Africa. He's been shot and he knows it's over. But his cell phone is charged and he has reception, so he calls a woman. This Saturday, I'm heading to the Death Cafe. Let's say it out loud and hear what these people have to say. Okay, this one is a villanelle for symmetry. There's always doing nothing, but that would not achieve it. The options are or seem to be but two. It's removing the Barbie or adding to Ken, if the ultimate goal is to be symmetry. I could find a surgeon to implant something, but I don't think I want that. As sad as it was to say goodbye, at least that side now feels true. There's always doing nothing, but that would not achieve it. Smooth and clean where Righty was, free, unself-conscious. I like it. A pre-adolescent turn or returning to youth. It's removing the Barbie or adding to Ken, if the goal is eventual symmetry. The Barbie side is a Frankenstein mound, uneven. The scar often itches. The lat dorsine muscle clipped and pulled through the ribs. There's always doing nothing, but that would not achieve it. I visited the surgeon who fashioned the creature, glossy Manhattan 15 years later. She heard me and saw me and said, it's something she could do, removing the Barbie, if the goal is ultimate symmetry. So I'll consider and consider and consider what to do. There are many choices, but really actually only two. There's always doing nothing, but that would not achieve it. So it's removing the Barbie or adding to Ken, if the goal is ultimate symmetry. This one is called Villanelle for Peter the Cat. Oh, Peter the Cat, I get it. Sometimes you just swallow a thing. Whatever it is, you wanted to feel an immediate crave, lizard brain. Before you know it, it's in you. And how do you get it out? In your mouth before you could think, whatever it is, whatever it is. I once took some expired fish oil I found in my mother-in-law's safe. Oh, Peter the Cat, I get it. Sometimes you just swallow a thing. Waiting, ejecting, one end or the other, none of the ways are working. Can you simply deny it? Turn up the corners and put it all on a brave face? Somehow it's suddenly in you and now you just want it out. This goes for ideas. We excuse and believe, drinking the myth like it fixes, later realizing the Kool-Aid we drank just perpetuates our desperation. Oh, Peter the Cat, I get it. Sometimes you just swallow the thing. And how are you today, my friend? Are you feeling like you can be rid of it? Are you lighter and freer, open and rested, more happy, more present, more brave? Have you released your burden? Did you find a way to get it out? Just listening, not judging, just being, dear one, accepting and learning and resting and helping. Oh, Peter the Cat, I get it. Sometimes you just swallow a thing. Before you know it, it's in you. And how do you get it out? This will be my last one. Villanelle for I Walk the Line. I walk the line, except when I don't. Today, have I? I want my own. I do not lie. I walk the line. The secret's known. The bird has flown. Today, have I? This lawn needs to be mown. I have worked an honest lie. I walk the line. Just enough coffee to keep me low. I know how to avoid getting too high. Today, have I? Sisters in sobriety and sisters in song coincide. Where do I go when I don't know what I don't know? I walk the line. Today, have I? Thanks for listening, you guys.
Thank you, everybody. I'm trying to find. One of the things I just love about Zoom is how I click on a button a million times, and then there's that one time where I can't find the button. There it is. I think I just learned something, that if my video was stopped, that I couldn't enlarge my head. Lesson learned. The next person is Gregg Weatherby. Gregg is a poet and actor, born and raised in central New York, wandered. He has held interesting jobs, some not so much, and returned to teach at SUNY Cortland, now emeritus. He has 4 books of poetry published, and I will put that link into the chat. And here is Gregg. Don't forget to take yourself off mute.
Thank you, Robin. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I on? Am I live? That's
Yes.
tough bunch of writers to follow here. I don't. Last month I was at a reading by the Vietnamese American poet Hai Dong Phan, and he mentioned that during COVID, during lockdown, he started writing about birds. Not to be outdone, I also started writing about birds, and from my apartment on Trip Hammer Road, and I thought I would share some of those with you, because I promised I would read local imagery. These are all from my last book called Before We Forget. This one's called Still Life with Ghosts. 2 months into lockdown, at a certain hour of night, time stops. Cold sneaks in under the doors, through the windows. The ghost you are left with come in dreams, softly elusive. Lost sometimes, you wonder about pictures from long ago, places and people you used to know. What have they found? Where did they go? Alone in the quiet night, the ringing in your ears. This one's called April in Lockdown. Late on a cold and windy afternoon, snow still in the air, trees bare the time of the plague. After a long day at work, staring at the computer, a month on, under lockdown, the new sensations, face masks, and enforced seclusion. I understand now the songs my father sang only to himself under his breath. Why he was afraid of the cold, felt the chill all year long, why he stopped going to memorials. My age moves across me like the edge of dark on the earth. From space, you can't tell what we have done, the destruction, the species disappearing before I knew they were even here, the tired senselessness of it all, the coming dark, the silent cold, massive moon lights the empty yard. I forgot why I was singing Happy Birthday 2 times. I mentioned that image to somebody the other day and they didn't know what I meant. I hope everybody remembers. When they first came out, they told us to wash our hands and sing Happy Birthday 2 times. That's how long we were supposed to do it. Anyway, this one's called In Loco. The play on words is intentional. In Loco. There are worse places to be inside any of my old apartments in the city. The only views, smudged, sooty windows, pigeon-filled air shafts, and garbage-strewn back alleys, heavy metal gates for shutters, no sun ever. Here there is light and glass, due east, due west, views of round red maple, willow, shagbark, rising sun and setting sun, and birds. Oh, the birds, I know some of them by name now. One female cardinal at the feeder 3 times a day, her mate posing in a tree, mourning doves, 3 species of woodpeckers, elegant in their black and whites, and little wrens. On the news, the curve resists flattening. Who would have thought in the city, reefer trucks are used for bodies, no sound in the streets, in the spring rain, in the burning bush, shelter in place. That's too depressing. Okay. This is called short term. Maybe the problem is we spend too much of our time looking down at our feet, or anyway, maybe just a little ahead, not far enough. Look where it gets us. Generations saddled with debt, superbugs, bad food, bad air, ozone, oil slicks into the seas, beaches, the Gulf, tarred and feathered, running out of time and downhill. Will we disappear like the fleeting ghost of a dream, a jar of ashes tossed in the wind? This is a haiku. If you sit quiet on the porch writing poems, all manner of birds. I'm going to read this one last one. It's just called Birds. Not long in the future, standing among what's left of the trees, a young child will ask, were there birds? Do you remember the birds? What were they like? What language did they speak? What were their names? Is this their place? Where did they go? What did you do? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mark Zuss. Do you see how yellow I look? Is that very strange? It's because my walls are yellow. I moved and I'm disturbed by it.
Disturbed by moving?
I'm disturbed by how yellow I am.
Need a ring light.
This morning I got obsessed with a tufted titmouse because I was reading a book on the porch and it hung out with me for about a half hour, landing on my head at one point. Mark is a native son of Brooklyn, New York, a painter and emeritus professor at the City University of New York, where he taught graduate classes in media studies, language, and literacy. He coordinates the monthly The Verb Takes a Walk collaborative poetry and music events in Lansing. He lives astounded at the potentials of the world, of worlds burrowed within words. And I'm going to put the link to the Lansing Performing Arts Center. It's a jazz and poetry series on the IthacaSavageClub.com website. So I'll put that link in. And now here is Mark. And you could take, yep, there you go.
You hear me?
Yep.
Thank you, Robin, and thanks everybody for being here. Being the Z person, I'll be the cleanup person, like in the ball game, and riffing off of Gregg and Robin's bird today, and the question of where the birds went. Last June, I believe it was, we were surrounded by the smoke coming down from Ontario. a time that we couldn't breathe. So it moved me to try to write something about that and think about or imagining how we got here and how we could go beyond it. So it's called a sudden summer. Blackberries tangle swirled vines, goldfinch clutch curled iron posts, salmon flash over mossy rock, and a flushed moon spins free, visible face of night. Canadian breezes hearken and whir through jasper flamed brush. Hickories shed bark and hoard of hard green nut. Fireflies signal flared from bramble dark. And cottonwood stars begin in the heartwood of the imagination. Light splits its rays through clouds, rubbing up into moist worlds, its pigments seeping to mark time. Deer tracks take us sideways through hill mist. Hazels, birch, tamarack, hemlock, heaped stone from another time, push up into presence. Goldfinch, jaunt and clutch curled iron posts. In this place of summering hands, hooves a winged menagerie. Here we are given world, the given world, worlds in turn. Fire makes fire across brittle fields, our time tensed, the very air in question. Hickory shed bark and hoard of hard green nut. We walk along under groves of birch and hickory in dusk's suspended light. What are we to craft and make? How are we giving shape to futures here in this expanse of wonder and chaos? Is there a language to speak of this? What we only say with shred word, dread here in this time of smoke, ash, and heat. Fireflies signal flared from bramble dark as smoke trails zigzag a continent in peril. I say this to you as you pass, your ears blurred by sounds that surround and distract you on the uneven amounts of day, the split ground you awake to. And I say this not to solace, nor to alarm, not to mourn or celebrate, but to awaken the quick of our senses, compose and composing, to summon our common desire. Here in this, our only world, a rounding space ferries us, migrants to time, vagrant in the shifting play of air, pollen, seed, and smoke. Cottonwood stars begin in the heartwood of the imagination. In the slate of fortune under waves, snow, seasonal flight, the scatter of new seed, we enter the world of women, the ancient trail of mothers, hosts and shapers who lock the earth in place. A margin of error no longer exists. The all itself in balance. We are here to weave the art of imagined futures, not to survive, but to thrive under clustering stars, to clutch at the depths of the rich black dirt in our hands, our birthright. reading Darwish, the Palestinian national poet, one of whose collections is called Unfortunately, This Is Paradise. I wrote a very short prayer-like piece, I guess a peace poem about an unimagined future or an imaginable future that seems unlikely. I call it Temple Mount or Al-Aqsa Mosque being in the same place in Jerusalem, a holy spot, the third most important place in Islam and one of the sacred sites of Judaism. It's just a short poem. Through Jerusalem's gates, horsemen enter, soundless, as hordes of pollen layered in the wind. Trampling lilies, the riders pierce into the sanctuary of the breath, lighting the branch of the imminent dove bearing names. How am I doing on time, Robin?
I haven't been paying attention, but, I mean, to the time. But we have plenty of time.
I'll just read two more. On a different note, native son of Brooklyn, did some research, as many of us do, about ancestors coming from Eastern Europe and everybody else, and imagining what they saw when they came to Ellis Island and what New York's skyline back in the turn of the century, early part of the century, 20th century, looked like. And then I'd always been impressed by Hart Crane's Bridge poems, his collection, and that time. And I tried to find his house in Woodstock, where I lived for a few years. Anyway, I wrote something about the bridge in a more contemporary vein, and I just called it Hart Crane Returns. Harp owned its bounty on fire, the bridge in ascent through dusk's tendrils in grasp of an anchored moon. Arcing over Gotham, its wintered steel, rattling drums down into the river's mouth. Resonant are finitude crests and constellations of towers, vertical above hovels of lucre, haze-burrowed Wall Street. In Prospect Park, a republic of trees burnish in October's angle light. Its bonsai waterfalls, cat's eye marbles in the hands of new immigrants on the run from constant hunger. The souled city dreams of snow. Its musics in hybrid harmony drive the sleepless pulse of a multitude. And maybe finish on an old poem about writing, oddly enough, called Reveries of My Hand. It's in one of my two old collections. Reveries of My Hand. The palm wakes, surfacing with a pulse on a stem of lucent veins. It delves through grains of memory, spectral with the pigment of its solitude. In reach of icons, clasping a book of embers, the palm opening to the impalpable, the keeper of balances. The weight of my body tautens against its veil of thirsts, grazing an earth-herded light that smokes up through mud and violets. I drag up sparks, imprinting the sky with the reveries of my hand. Thank you.
Thank you. So now, if anyone has any questions for any of the writers, please write them in the chat. And I have a question. And I'm gonna lead into it a little bit. I've just been inspired by all these spring rights events to do some events at the Community Arts Partnership that have to do with writers artists talking about what it means to them to be creative people. And I have a Kurt Vonnegut quote on my bulletin board, but I've seen it in so many different places and it's always different. And I think I just found the original. In 2006, a high school English teacher asked students to write to a famous author, and they wrote to Kurt Vonnegut. And he replied, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he said, "What I had to say to you, moreover, would not take long. Practice any art, music, singing, dancing, acting, drawing, painting, sculpting, poetry, fiction, essays, no matter how well or badly, not to get money and fame, but to experience becoming, to find out what's inside you, to make your soul grow." Seriously, I mean, starting right now, do art and do it for the rest of your lives. Draw a funny or nice picture of Ms. Lockwood, that's their teacher, and give it to her. Dance home after school and sing in the shower and on and on. Make a face in your mashed potatoes. Here's an assignment for tonight. Write a 6-line poem about anything but rhymed. Make it as good as you possibly can, but don't tell anyone what you're doing. Don't show it or recite it to anybody, not even your girlfriend or parents or whatever. Tear it up into teeny weeny pieces and discard them into widely separated trash receptacles. You will find that you have already been gloriously rewarded for your poem. You have experienced becoming, learned a lot more about what's inside you, and you have made your soul grow. And my question for the artists, and let's bring them all up onto the screen, is what does art do for you? Because I think that we've all been taught in school that you should do something if you're good at it and not to do it if you're not good at it. And that was especially true when I grew up, of all the people I knew who took dance or ballet. If they weren't good at it, they were actively discouraged. Didn't see that so much with writing and visual art. And I make visual art, but have absolutely no desire to show it to anybody. So my question to you guys, you could take yourselves off mute. What does your art making do for you? And Mark, I see that you're also a painter. And some of you, and Mary is also a musician. So many of you have different art forms.
It's an amazing question.
Let's do Lee first.
Sure. I think, Robin, can you repeat your specific question? What does it mean?
What does it do for your soul? What does your art making do? How does it enhance your life? Yeah, I can't say it any better.
Totally. I love that Kurt Vonnegut story and quotation, and I think there's so much value in creating something, even before, or even if you don't intend to share it with anyone. I do find for me I think the most valuable part of creating anything, poetry, circus, what have you, is in preparing it to share it with anyone else. And I think it was when I switched my thinking from how do I make this good enough to show anyone else, to what effect do I want to have on that person, and how do I make sure this can hopefully have that effect on someone. And so for me with my poetry, I find often I'm not ready to share it until I figure out how it can give somebody a little bit of hope. Like if it's only despair, if it's only me trying to figure out my feelings or whatever, then it's not ready to share. But once I find that way to bring hope to somebody else, even if it is kind of bleak otherwise, then it might be ready to share. And trying to figure that out is useful in its own right, even if that particular poem never gets shared.
Yeah, that was a really cool answer, because I have a voice in my head when I'm making visual art of, is this cheating? Is this good enough? What would you think? And then I have to say to myself, I'm not showing this to anybody. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just create with reckless abandon is what I'm trying to do. So Mary, you also wanted to say something.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, this is so fascinating. I guess for me, I find that creating things shows me how I feel, and I often don't know how I feel or what I'm thinking until I try to put the words into place. Or with music, I'll just make some music and I'll go, what am I saying here? And then I'll realize what I'm articulating. It really helps me discover. When I used to teach English to high school kids, they would say, well, I don't know what to write. And I'd say, you don't have to know what to write. You start writing, then you'll discover what you think. Writing helps you figure out what you think. And that's what I think it does for me. I'm a big scribbler. I've got a bunch of notebooks around, and they would make no sense to anybody. You would look and think there's nothing, but the doing of it really just kind of helps me stay grounded, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a community arts partnership series, like these conversations. Because I was just like a week ago, I was thinking, well, I'm going to play the clarinet again because I was a music major and I should do that again, like now or never, now's the time. But I'm not going to write because I'm not good at it. And then last night I was listening to some artists. I'm like, where did that voice come from? Who gave me that restriction? So this is really interesting. Other of you?
I,
Let's do Gregg.
yeah, since I started, I think that my poetry and my acting are ways in which I define myself. I found once I retired and could focus on my writing and my acting completely, rather than going to work, that I felt more human.
Mm.
It's also poetry and acting are, well, I guess words. Words are my connection to magic. Poetry is magic. You sit down and start writing and you don't know where it's going to go. I mean, I never know what a poem is going to end up as. I might think I'm going to write about a blue jay, but I don't. It may end up being something completely different. And so, and that's what I like. I like the magic that's involved, and the ability of words to move other people is magic too. If you choose to share your work, and not everybody does, and that's okay.
Yeah, and the process is interesting. Like some people won't start writing until they have the whole outline in their head, and some people start writing and see what happens.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I just see what happens.
So how about Yao?
I do feel different forms of arts. I do a bunch of stuff and I always get criticized for not focusing on one. But I mean, every form of art, or even if you don't consider it as a form, it just has its own fascination and also its own limitation. So sometimes when poems, they cannot adequately express one scenario or a specific type of emotion, you might want to go to music, or you might want to add some music, and then you bring in some colors. And this process, and especially when you are involving yourself with the different medias, with the potential audiences, and with the sources of inspiration as part of the world, you become part of the world, and you feel you are the world. You are breathing with the others, alongside the others, and enjoying their heartbeats and your heartbeats. And I just feel this part that connects me to my inner self and the world. So I really enjoy art making, no matter whatever form.
Yeah.
And you're in an academic environment, so is the criticism coming from academia?
Yeah, mostly my professors.
Oh yeah. Yeah, do it all. Do it all. We give you permission to do it all. Mark, did you want to say something?
You're muted, I think.
Oh, you're muted. Yep.
There you go.
It's part of my experience with poetry throughout my life, and dabbling in art and dabbling in the Middle Eastern music tradition, the oud, painting, the colors and the sounds are all tones and different tunings of perception for me. And I think I see them as complementing each other, but they allow for different reads or different tendrils. If I have tendrils or I guess my nervous system to be closer to the world. And by doing any of them and hiding them, and certainly also not sharing a lot of this with other people for the same reasons everyone else has, so has the experience, that it gets me closer to feeling that I'm part of the world, and I know it in a way that perhaps one medium doesn't allow me to know as well. So there are colors, tones, touch. So the widening or the opening up of perception seems to be, to me, very much what it is to explore, however unprofessionally, across the media, across the range, the spectrum, I suppose, of perceptions.
By the way, Mary wrote multidisciplinary is in. I did notice that a lot of the young people that I talked to, and by young, I mean like, under 40, they're like, oh, I'm a dancer and a writer and an artist. And it seemed, and I keep noticing people saying all these things. And I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. Like people are multidisciplinary now. So it's at a trend.
Good.
We have a question for Yao from Lee, actually. How did you choose the format for your piece, a one-act play?
I start writing conversations, and actually this play come out from a class. It's called Adapting for Film and Theater. So the professor gave us 15 minutes and gave us 3 things. One thing, you have to have something about money, and you have to have something about hug, like hugging people, and you also must have something about a slap. So I'm like, about 5 minutes passed and I cannot still figure out anything. So I thought, monkey, well, I will just start writing about monkey, and 1 is not enough for a conversation. So I say, okay, monkey 1, monkey 2, and I just started with 1 monkey, like literally, not literally like slapped, but throw at the other monkey off the tree. So I already have kind of the first one, and I need to figure out the money part and the hug part. So that is how it started.
Yeah, prompts are good. Like whatever the art form that Mary, it started with a V and I forget the name already.
Villanelle.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard that structure, it sounded like a cross between creativity and a word game.
Yes.
Yeah. Like a little game challenge that you can do, which is probably what I don't know if we mentioned this before people came in the room or whether it was early, but Lee is doing a workshop. I can pull up the date called, let's actually pull it up and tell people what you're doing. On the springwrites.org website, there's a tab called June to August workshops. There's one, writing poetry of resistance, unleashing the power of the list poem, writing speculative fiction workshop, young adult fantasy. So you want to write a picture book, sending hope to imprisoned writers, and the one and how to make a zine. The one Leah's doing on Sunday, August 4th. It'll be live at the CAP Art Space, our gallery. In downtown Ithaca, is called Disrupting Sterile Spaces, How to Write Scientific Blackout Poetry. In a blackout poem, the writer chooses an existing document and obscures all but a few selected words. The remaining words create the poem. This process puts the writer in direct conversation, not only with the words on the page, but with the historical context, power structures, and biases underlying their chosen text. So that sounds fun. And there's a 3-step generative writing exercise, and it'll close with an opportunity for people to share. So I just wanted to put in a plug for the workshops that are happening from June to August. What else? Does anyone have anything else to talk about?
I was wondering if anybody ever thinks about or hears any music, potential accompaniment to their poems. I know in the villanelle you already have a structure that might be conducive to some kind of rhythmic. But I would just wonder, because the thing that we try to do in Lansing performance spaces, do collaborative music and poetry to try to see how they can work together or resonate off each other. I was just wondering, because I try to hear if the poem has too many words, as I'm sure everyone else does, and if there's a resonance or there's an echo at the end of a poem, you know, it still vibrates a little bit.
Before Mary answers that, because I know you want to, I want to say the event she did for Spring Rights, every year she does an event called 7 Minutes in Heaven, which I didn't know what that game was, by the way.
You didn't?
I never heard of it. Apparently, in the old days, you'd go into a closet with someone and kiss for 7 minutes. I don't know. It sounds horrible. But it's called, what she did was, it's called Spin the Bottle in the Art. She gets 21 people, 7 writers, 7 actors, 7 musicians. I think the writers and the actors are paired up ahead of time, and then you spin the bottle, and they're paired with a musician who improvises accompaniment to the reader. So that's pretty fun. You should host that at the in Lansing. But Mary, answer that question.
Oh, I was gonna say, sign me up because I would love to do more of that. We just did that event and we really love it. And I have had a few opportunities to do soundtracks for dramatic things and documentaries, and that is such an amazing experience because we know how music really transforms, whatever it touches. So, but I had the 7 Minutes in Heaven idea because when I grew up, in the 70s, and there was this myth that if you played Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon and you started the Wizard of Oz at the same time, that you would find incredible synergies, which is, clearly a stoner, a stoner thing. But I loved that idea of just because randomly, even though it wasn't intentional, you would notice things. I mean, you would notice things that seemed real. And we do find these synergies. You're driving in the car and you're thinking about something and a song comes on the radio and you all of a sudden, there's a spell. And so I would love to find out more about those events and participate in them if that's possible.
I bought a new car. I'm sorry, I'm going to tell this funny story. I bought a new car recently and, my old one was like a 2005. So it's not new. I bought it 2016, but it's got the dashboard and the display, the GPS display. And it was like going from a horse and buggy to like a starship. And what I didn't realize is that while I was looking at the GPS, while I was looking at the map, at the very top of the screen, the name of the song that was playing on my CD would show up. And I was having a particularly bad day. And it kept saying, run away, run away, run away. And I thought, what's happening? It was the name of a song that was playing. And I thought it was a message from beyond. I'm like, where am I going? Where should I go? So I interrupted somebody. Who did I interrupt? Was it Yao? Yes.
Yeah, I want to just ask Mary if she would like to collaborate with Sitting Soundtracks to play chromatic voices.
Yes, very much. Yes.
Yeah. Watch her video, which is on the homepage, the link to our YouTube channel to polychromatic voices. And Yao composed music and sang and played that in between the 5 different readers that she had from the PhD program. So check that out. Yay, we're meeting different people and collaborating.
This is so great.
It is. You guys are also creative. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I really wanted to do professional development workshops, but I'm not getting the motivation for it. And I'm like, should I do something on social media? And I'm like, people could just watch a video, but this can't happen in a video. So I think that it's not going to be, but should I do live? I should do live, but also live stream. Yeah.
Both is good. Hybrid is good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Any other comments or questions from the audience or comments? Or everyone want to go outside before it rains or?
Who brought the wine?
Yeah, that's the thing. I have to say I love Zoom, but we can't share a bottle of wine, but you can certainly have your own. Well, I think that's it then for tonight, everybody. This was a wonderful event. Please check out tomorrow's events at springrites.org. That's spring, WRITES.org. And the tape of this event, if you want to share it with anyone, will be on our YouTube channel, which is linked to our homepage at artspartner.org in about an hour. I'm going to load it up right now. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.